The Lion of Judah is roaring with power, and he's fighting our battles, and every knee will bow before him. God is the Lamb, he's the Lamb that was slain for the sin of the world. His blood breaks the chains, and every knee will bow before the Lion and the Lamb, and every knee will bow before him. Ever seen the you ever seen?
To all fathers, fathers that have stepped in, fathers of fur babies, all fathers, all dads. We are so glad that you guys are all here today. So happy Father's Day from Forward Point to you. If you are new, actually, before I go there, let's go ahead. If you are here for the first time, I would like you to text WELCOME to 315-883-2213. And that will just get us connected to you. Say hello. Make sure you stop at the little welcome corner or wall now that has a little gift for you on your way out. Just appreciation to say thank you for being here and joining us today. If you're also new to Forward Point, we have taps now, which is super exciting. So there's these little QR code or like card place. I don't know what you call them, like tents, I guess, table tents. They're on all the tables out in in our living room that you can just tap to get connected to us. Also, anybody also has little tap wrist bracelets too, those that are on staff, and you can tap them and ask any questions. But it'll also take you right to our Church Center app, which is awesome. So that's all things Forward Point. So life groups, calendars, events, all things will be right there at the Church Center app. So again, as we welcome some guests in, so kind of if you guys can squeeze in so other people can join us, that would be lovely. And if you also are in need of prayer, at the end we also have our prayer partners. But sometimes I'm this way. I get nervous. I don't like coming in front of people. So you can also tap, and we would love to be able to connect with you in that way if you are in need of prayer. Join us for our conversations and our devos. Those are also a way that you can tap from the conversation that we have on Sundays, and we continue that throughout the week. And just it allows us to continue the conversation that we started here on Sunday mornings. So don't forget to connect with us online for all things and download that app. And if you would like to give, because giving is a joy, there are different ways that you can do that. And you can give in person with the joy box in the back. You can also tap, which is exciting. And you can also do it on the Church Center app. All right, and so again, fathers, when you leave today, we have a special gift for you, a Lowe's bucket full of jerky. All right, and so it's kind of like totally like my vibe. It's like a Katrina and I mashup because I eat protein all the time, and then Katrina loves Lowe's, like that's like her love language is walking into Lowe's. So it's kind of like me and Katrina, like in a gift to you. So anyway, so grab some on your way out just to say thank you and happy Father's Day. So thank you again for joining us at Forward Point, and let's join the conversation. Oh, kiddos, it's your turn to go. Adios, ciao, and you guys will make your way out. Thanks.
Well, good morning, Forward Point. How's everybody doing today? Yes, it's great to see all of you. Happy Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to you, Mike, new father over here. Great to see everyone here this morning. I got Father's Day tradition every year. My girls always get me some kind of Father's Day t-shirt, so you guys always get to enjoy that with me on that first Father's Day. However, my oldest is not here, so she sent me a meme. I'll share with you guys. Here's what she sent me. Me calling my dad to see where he wants to take me for Father's Day because thanks to me, he's a father, right? And I guess if you know Justice or anything about Justice, you know that fits her pretty well, that she would be. I said, Justice, you would be the one to flip this to make this all about you, but I'm not taking you anywhere with your hair looking like that. So you got some work to do if you think I'm going to take you out for Father's Day. But it's been interesting having her away in Chicago over the last week and then one more week to come. She's doing a college course there over a course of 2 weeks, and we were texting back and forth, and a couple days ago she said, Bestie, now you got to understand, I don't understand most of the things that she says when she texts me. I may have to translate it for you. I don't know when I became her bestie, but Bestie, I'm going through some Chick-fil-A withdrawals right now. And I said, you are? How do you think we're doing? Right now, if you don't know, our oldest has been working at Chick-fil-A for quite some time now, and she gets free Chick-fil-A whenever she's working, and then she gets 50% off for the rest of her friends and family. So there, wouldn't be a week that didn't go by that we had Chick-fil-A at least, 3, 4, 7 days a week. And so I said, how do you think we're doing now? And she said, I went from every day to nothing. I need Chick-fil-A, right? And immediately I start to think, this is not good. I said, girl, you are addicted to Chick. And she says, I'm not addicted. It was a joke, I promise. And then I did a little screenshot of what she said, and she says, I just low-key craving Chick-fil-A right now, right? And I began to think that maybe this Chick-fil-A thing is becoming a little bit more deeper of an obsession with her than is healthy. And then about a day or so later, our next oldest, Augustine, was reading some conversation she was having with her older sister back and forth, and much to her oldest sister's knowledge, she outed out her sister. She told to her sister, she said, Girly Pop, you are addicted. And she says, I really want Chick-fil-A right now, right? And then Augustine is like, I know, for real. I was literally just thinking that. Should I low-key DoorDash, right? And I'm thinking to myself, how in the world did we get to a place where our family is addicted to Chick-fil-A? To the point where they're willing to make unhealthy financial decisions to, one, pay full price for Chick-fil-A, but then two, to pay extra for it by having a DoorDash to the house, right? And sometimes, I don't know about you, but sometimes in life there's some things that we have some emotional obsessions over, right? Can I, any witnesses, anybody willing to admit to, nope, just me, okay, thank you. We have some emotional, maybe you don't recognize in your life that these are some emotional obsessions. I like to use the word hangups. We have some hangups in our life. That's where the phrase eating your feelings comes in, right? Have you ever gone through a pint of Ben and Jerry's after some kind of crazy, anyway, just me and Tina, okay, all right. Tina, you and I need to have a recovery group, and the rest of the people here need to pray. That's eating your feelings, right? That's something kind of culturally normal, but when you really think about it, it's not healthy, right? It's a hang-up when you have to process your feelings, your emotions through some of the things that maybe you eat, right? Or doing things like unhealthy things like DoorDashing, Chick-fil-A. There's another guy in the Bible, his name was Esau, and he did some very unhealthy things over some food, right? If you're familiar with the story, back in Genesis, Esau and his brother Jacob, Esau's out all day, and he's kind of the manly man, and he's out hunting and looking for food, and apparently he didn't catch anything, or he didn't have enough time to cook it, because he gets back home, and he is famished. So he tells his brother Jacob, man, I'd be willing to do anything for this pot of stew that you are cooking, so much so that I'm willing to give you my birthright. As the firstborn, as the oldest of the two, he is entitled to some benefits, he's entitled to some blessings, and he says, I'm willing to give this over to you all for having a little, stew in a bowl for a meal, right? That is the very definition of an unhealthy emotional obsession taking over oneself. So today we're going to be looking at this idea about hang-ups, right? How do hang-ups, they lead to compulsory attempts to solve spiritual problems with physical solutions, right? It may be food, or it could be something else. But there's this internal, right, there's something missing, and we try to fix these problems with some external things. For some people, it's drugs. That's kind of one of the obvious ones that we're all familiar with as being unhealthy. Drugs, sex, alcohol, right? Those are things that are kind of commonplace and known as, wow, you stay away from those. But there's a lot of other ones that are equally as damaging, equally as modes to just covering some internal spiritual issues, things like doom scrolling. Anybody here doom scroll on their phone for hours at a time? Man, this is a rough crowd. You guys, I tell you, I think you guys should be up here and I should be down there listening to what's going on here. Or sometimes you respond to things in an unhealthy way with some rage, or maybe it's the language that you use without even thinking about it. There's words that come out of your mouth that maybe you wouldn't say if you were up here with the microphone, right? Or maybe you have a habit of lying. There's times in your life when it's just kind of easier to just say something that smooths over the conversation, so you lie. And those individual things are not really the problem. The problem is that there is some spiritual issues underneath the surface that we have going on that we're trying to resolve with these physical solutions. And this morning, we want to say, Forward Point is going to be a place that is for people with all of those issues, right? No matter what your issue is, it's not that you come here and we say, oh, that's okay, you're fine the way that you are, but you're going to be welcomed here and you're going to be loved here, and we're going to challenge you to take a step towards thinking about what those are and what does it look like to find healing from these hangups or these hurts or these habits that we have. So we started this conversation a few weeks ago talking about first and foremost, and this is going to come up again, about being a disciple, right? That Jesus tells us as he's leaving earth that you are going to be my disciples and you're going to go into all the world and you're going to make more disciples. And being a disciple, it just means you're somebody that has a disciple who is also discipling someone else. That's how you know that you are actually in this discipling relationship, when you have a disciple and they are also involved in the process of discipling. And that's really the bar that Jesus set for all of us. Not just some of us, not just for the paid staff, not just for the volunteers, not just for those wearing bling, right? It is for everyone to be a disciple. And then the following week, we looked at this idea from Paul that talks about what price are you willing to pay? It reveals the value that you place on that thing. Right? And Paul says, you know what, I am willing to lay down my life. I'm really literally to be a servant, or he uses the word to be a slave to anybody, that I might reach anybody. I step out of my freedom, I step out of my comfort zone so that I might have the opportunity to reach and become all things to all people. And then last week we looked at this idea about next gen ministry, right? That it's not just an isolated ministry department, but it's an all hands on deck mission. That all of us, right? Youth ministry is not a calling for a few, but it's a responsibility for all of us to take into consideration. That from infants to college, young adult, is this very important moldable time frame in our lives where we're willing to go in whatever direction someone is usually willing to take us. And a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, a lot of hurt, a lot of hurts, habits, and hangups happen during this time. But if all of us decide to say, maybe I can't be there on Sunday nights, but I'm going to be a part of getting involved in a young person in my neighborhood, or maybe the student of a coworker of mine, that I just do for one what I wish I could do for everybody, that we all have this mindset. And we saw that Jesus said, let the little children come. Like, don't be shooing them away, but let them come, because this is actually what it's like in the kingdom of heaven. This kind of action, this kind of craziness, this kind of goofiness that comes along with letting the little kids come. So today in Matthew, last week when we looked at this section in Matthew then right after this starts talking about another story. He brings to account this young man who comes to Jesus with a question. And we're going to be diving into that and what it looks like in being a people, being a church that is a safe place for those with hurts, habits, and hangups. And it says this: another day, a man stopped Jesus and asked, "Teacher, what good thing must I do to get eternal life?" Now, this is a really good question. This is a question that I think everybody should wrestle with. Some people just say, I don't believe there's anything once you die, that's it. If you're here this morning and you're not quite crossed the line of faith, but you're kind of feeling like, I feel like there's more than just what we got going on, and we're glad that you're here. But this is the question that all of us should be wrestling with, because it should determine how we're going to choose to live our life. And this guy says, hey, what good thing must I do to get eternal life? He feels like he can kind of narrow it down to just one action. There's some kind of habit, there's some kind of action, there's some kind of thing, some kind of formula that I can do that's going to allow me to get a go directly to heaven card. And as you can imagine, this piques Jesus' curiosity, and he decides to discuss this topic. So he says in response, Jesus said, "Why do you question me about what's good? God is the one who is good." And it's kind of funny because Jesus is kind of in this like third person way claiming to be God, right? He's like, you would only go to someone who you believe is good to find out about what is good, and God is the only one that's good. So he's kind of telling everyone else that's around that this guy is admitting, this guy is claiming that I am God, right? And it's this, as being a disciple, it starts to become this conversation about, am I just going to be a Christian or am I going to be a disciple? Because being a Christian, again, we can put it anywhere in the list and see everything else. You know, if we put it after our gender, we can put it after our race, we can put it after wherever we want along the lines, and then everything else gets seen through that lens. But a disciple, it's got to be first. And Jesus makes this clear. He's saying, if I'm God, then doing the way that I teach you, the way that I instruct you, has got to influence every other aspect of your life. And he starts flipping the conversation upside down. He says, if you want to enter the life of God, listen, he's not all just about eternity, right? The guy came looking for himself. What does it look like for me to have eternal life? And Jesus begins to flip it and says, if you want to enter the life of God, not just someday in eternity, not just someday you getting to live every day for the rest of eternity, but if you want to enter the life of God right here, right now, in this moment, he just says, just do what he tells you. That is disciple first, and then every other area of my life, I act out and I live in such a way in which Jesus told us. Every area of our lives we can go back to and see, what does Jesus expect of us in this area? With our sexuality, with the way that we engage with people, with the way that we talk, there is a bar that's been set. And Jesus says, if you want that kind of life of God now, not just in eternity, just do what he tells you. Move from just going through the motions to being a disciple. But that wasn't really good enough for this young man, because this man's looking for the formula. This man's looking for the right words to say, the right actions to go through. So he digs a little deeper. So the man asks, well, that sounds good, but what in particular? Give me some meat on the bones here. Give me some specific actions. You can start to hear kind of the obsession this young man has, right? He came in thinking that he's going to walk away with a clear path to eternity. And Jesus, as he's pressing in on the nature of this guy's obsession, it starts to come out. He's got an emotional obsession. So Jesus starts to dive in a little deeper. So Jesus said, all right, let's go there. He says, don't murder. Don't commit adultery. Don't steal. Don't lie. Honor your father and mother. And love your neighbor as you do yourself, right? This is a pretty tall order. I thought we could kind of do a little mock to see who passed all these tests and have everybody stand up. Oh, that's Spidey senses. We're going to have everybody stand up, and we'll go through one at a time, and we'll have you sit down if you've committed one of the things, and we'll see who's left standing at the end, right? But I thought that might get kind of awkward through some of these, so we're not going to go through that. But Jesus lays out this list, and if you notice anything about this list is a collection of points from two specific things. The first one is the Ten Commandments. When God gave the Ten Commandments to Exodus in the beginning, he started off with a bunch of things that are about our relationship with God, how we interact with God, right? You have no other gods before me. And then he goes into the last series of them that are all in our relationship with each other. And that's what he begins to reflect back to this young ruler. All of those areas. He says, don't murder, don't commit adultery, don't steal, don't lie, honor your father and mother, right? These are all just the areas in which we interact with each other. Not even getting into the ones that he's called us to do in our relationship with God. No idols. But if we can even get past just how we interact with each other, then maybe someday we can get to how we interact with God. And this last one is love your neighbor as yourself. This is the second part of what Jesus said are the two greatest commandments, right? The first one being love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind. And the second is to love your neighbor as you do yourself. He mentions he repeats all the ones that have to do with how we interact with each other. Because there's no way that we can even begin the conversation about how we interact with God if we are not interacting with each other in the way that he has exemplified for us to do. Right? Because if we attempt to solve spiritual problems with physical solutions, that leads to brokenness. I won't ask you to raise your hands, but I would imagine if we did, and we were honest, all of us would raise our hands to say that we've either come out of or in the midst of or about to go into some seasons of brokenness. Some times where, because of a habit, because of a hurt, because of a hang-up, that we are broken. A broken relationship with the people around us, a broken relationship with God. But when we attempt to solve spiritual problems with spiritual solutions, this is where we find healing, both individually and corporately together. In fact, James, the half-brother of Jesus, says, if you want to find healing, you know where healing is found? It's in your confession of sins to each other. It's in your confessions of your hurts and your habits and your hang-ups to each other. That's where you will find healing. Now, when you confess those things to God, which I hope you have, you're going to find forgiveness. As soon as the words come out of your mouth, as soon as your heart is pointed in that direction to say, God, I'm dealing with this hang-up, then you will find forgiveness. But he instructed us to find healing. If you want to find healing from these things, then you have to develop a church for all people where you're able to confess these things to each other. That just coming in on a Sunday morning, singing some songs, listening to a guy speak, that's not going to bring you to the threshold of healing. Forgiveness, that may help you find forgiveness, but his plan for you, his purpose for you is so much greater than just to find forgiveness, just to get to eternal life, right? But if you want the life of God right here on earth, in this moment in your life, that he says it's found in correcting the relationships between you and the people around you. Don't do these things. Don't murder. Don't commit adultery. Don't steal. Don't lie. Honor your father and mother. Love your neighbor as yourself. If we can't do it with each other, then we're never going to be able to do it with God. But wouldn't you know, man, this young rich ruler, one of the other accounts of this story in the book of Luke calls this man a ruler. They believe that he was probably some kind of judge or lawyer. Like, this guy knew all about the law. When it came to these different things about murder and commit adultery, I mean, you know, lawyers, they're great at being able to work the law for their own advantage, to find the loopholes and to make themselves look and their party like they got it all together. So he's willing to go there with Jesus. He's willing to say, hey, I've done all that. What's left, right? I mean, can you imagine anyone being able to say that for their whole life that they have been free of murder and, well, it probably is an easy one to do, but adultery and stealing and all these things, that Jesus begins to say, hey, these things just being in your heart means that you have done these things. But never tell Jesus all of your relationships are whole, because then he's going to start peeling back some layers. He's going to start to say, hey, I think we need to look a little deeper at this one thing that's going on. Because he chooses to do that with this rich young ruler. He says, okay, if that's the basis of our relationship that we've established here, is that you got it all together in your relationship with each other, this is what he says. He says, if you want to give it all you've got, young man, go sell your possessions. Give everything to the poor. All your wealth will then be in heaven, and then come follow me. Now is it bad to have money? No, it's not bad to have money. But is money having you bad? And that's the obsession. That's the hang-up that this young man has. The possessions that he has, the money that he has, they've got him. Right? The Chick-fil-A in his life has got him. He wants to DoorDash himself some Chick-fil-A because he's got this hang-up, this emotional obsession with the things that he has. And he responds, he says, man, this was the last thing that the young man expected to hear. And so crestfallen, he walked away because he was holding on tight to a lot of things, and he couldn't bear to let it go. And it wasn't even so much that he was holding on tight to these things, but that these things were holding on tight to him. Right? That he was trying to find healing from some spiritual issues in his life with some physical solutions. For him, it was his status. Coming to the show, wanted to prove to everybody that he had it together, looking for the recognition, looking for the claim to fame that everyone is going to know that I've already got it all together, that I am, in fact, better than Jesus. I mean, basically, that's what he was trying to prove, was whatever Jesus is going to say, I'm going to be able to come to the table and say, I've done all that. I'm good. But the things that he had him. And Jesus didn't ask him to have it all together. Right? Jesus wasn't asking him to be perfect. Jesus wasn't asking him to never have sinned. But what he was asking was that he was asking him to do business. That when you take this step into being a disciple, it's not that there's shame for whatever hangups and hurts and habits that you have, but there is this expectation that we're going to do business with them. That we're going to start to bring them to the light, that we are going to start to develop communities where confession becomes commonplace. In fact, Paul says, I boast in my weaknesses, right? In the things, in my habits, in my hurts, and my hangups. I boast because these are stories of where God has come in and made me whole. So at Forward Point, part of our culture has got to be developing these next steps, where as people begin to investigate this relationship with God and this faith thing, is that we're going to have a community, a place where we can, not just the major ones, okay? This is not just if you're here this morning and you deal with drugs, you deal with alcohol, sex, all those main things. We're also talking about lying, and we're talking about cheating, and we're talking about food in our lives. If there's areas, anything, where you're using some kind of physical solution to solve a spiritual problem, then this community is for you, this next step community. And what we've done is decided to lean into this material called Celebrate Recovery, where we just meet on a regular basis, and it's basically a 12-step process that's beyond just drugs and alcohol, but it's for all of the areas in our life. Because what we tend to do as Christians, here's what Christians tend to do. Christians tend to exchange their physical solutions for new ones rather than change to spiritual solutions. And I've seen this in my own life. One of the things I recognize is that I tend to have a pretty addictive personality. And I spent a big portion of my life addicted to things like pornography. And I'll tell you, one of the most amazing days of my life is when it came to was exposed, and I was able to find forgiveness and to find healing. But one of the things that made it easy to do is just to replace that with another physical solution. So now sometimes I'm the one on my phone doom scrolling through Facebook. And I can justify it. I got to use it for the business. I got to use it to market the church. And there's all sorts of justifications. But in the end, you look at my phone, and I wouldn't want anybody to see my screen time. And if you're here this morning, and maybe you'd be a little ashamed of your screen time because it's just going to be hours and hours of Instagram or Facebook, right? There's a good chance that is just a physical solution for you that you're trying to use to solve some spiritual problems. Or for me, sometimes playing chess on my iPad. It's just an easy thing for me to kind of check out and not worry about anything that's going on. And I could spend sometimes late into the 12, 1 o'clock in the morning playing chess. Right? I'm not doing the drugs, the alcohol, the pornography, but just exchanging physical solutions for different physical solutions is not addressing the spiritual problems that are underneath the surface. In Forward Point, there's no shame. There's no pointing fingers. But we got to get to a place where we say, if this is going to be a church for everybody, then we have to start realizing and talking about the things that we're all dealing with. Some spiritual hangups, some spiritual hurts, some spiritual habits that God wants to see us experience healing in. Forgiveness for sure, as soon as you ask, definitely. But to find healing, you're going to have to step into a community of confession. So in a second, I'm going to talk a little bit more about what Celebrate Recovery is going to look like for us. But first, I just want you to check out this video.
Where did your dreams go? The dreams of childhood, wishes of the young and innocent heart, the hopes to make the team or to make the winning play, to make your family proud, the dreams to go somewhere, to do something, to become something, to get out ahead of the world, to leave behind your fears and worries, to see how vast and beautiful the world can be, to discover, to dare, to dive in, to know and be known, to love and be loved. All of those dreams, where did they go? One day we wake up and we feel the weight of our decisions, the consequences of what we've done and what's been done to us, the words, the actions, the lies, the addictions, the shame, the cycles, anger, the spiral. There's an emptiness that sets in. And all the years, the days and the dreams that are gone, we wake up and realize we're not as strong as we think we are. And it may have taken a great sorrow for us to realize that. But thankfully, you're not the only one with a dream for your life. There is one, our maker, our creator, the dream giver, who before you were even born had a plan for your life, a plan to prosper you and not to harm you, the one who imagined you, who delights in you, who gave up his own life for you. He has a plan for you. It's bigger than your mistakes, bigger than your regrets, bigger than all the hurts, hangups, and habits that have tried to steal your hope. No matter where you've been and no matter what you've done, you're not too far gone. God is for you, and his dreams for your future are good. A future of joy, a future of purpose, a future filled with redemption and renewal, promise and possibility. Don't stop now. Don't give up yet. This is the part where the story gets good, where the battles are won, where the prodigals come home, where the dead awaken to life. Your past is not your future. There is a God who does the impossible. There is more to come.
High on the Richter scale of things. It's not usually the big marquee items, but it doesn't have to be to keep you from experiencing the kind of things that video was hopefully eliciting from you. Right? That God has plans for you, a purpose for you, that you were created on purpose for a purpose. And we want to be part of, definitely for our community. Man, I feel like as we begin to offer this as a resource to our community, no strings attached, but just a place where they can talk about their hurts and habits and hangups. But first, it's important for us to, as we seek to be this kind of source of freedom for our community, that we experience it ourselves. So in July, what I would like to do on Wednesday nights, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be meeting out there, and we're going to be having our own just mini group to begin to raise up some leaders in this area. So if that's something that you would like to do, you can, in the Church Center app, you can join the Celebrate Recovery group. Not because you're murdering people or committing adultery, but just because there's something in your life that has got you, that is a physical solution you're trying to use to solve a spiritual problem. And we believe there's more for you. So this morning is going to be an opportunity to respond. We're going to sing some songs, and the prayer team will be up here. And if there's some things this morning that you identify, you want to start right out of the gate. You want to talk about, God, I want to get forgiveness from these things. I want to bring them to the light. And this is a great opportunity to start on that journey this morning. But the next step from here is going to be to pursue this community of confession, where we work through these steps and start dealing with these spiritual problems, with spiritual solutions. Things that He's told us. This is take a next step, pursue and seek God this morning for what that next step is for you. God, we are so grateful that you have chosen to give your life, not just for us to have eternity with you, but so that we might also experience the kingdom of God here on earth right now. In this moment, that we can experience God right now in our life by inviting you into these areas of physical solutions that are meant to do what we have asked them to do. And now they've become hurts and habits of ours.
was thinking again, we're all celebrating recovery. And what you've gone through or what you feel you've overcome, we are always in the business of overcoming. God is always working with us. Yes, God is good, but also, as you know, evil sits at our doorstep every day, and it will take the power of Christ in your life to overcome things. But when you do, my goodness, how many people need that same love, that same tenderness, that same love? And it's so important that we would walk through with that same humility, knowing that every single day it's a joy to serve. You know, the Bible story that kind of came to mind when I'm even singing that song, Touch the Sky, is when Jesus had, I think there was a guy that had either leprosy, and obviously, if you had leprosy back then, I mean, you were just paralyzed. But his hand was either paralyzed with this, and it was, I think it was tucked in his cloak. And where other people would be like, oh my goodness, hide it, just like hide all our guilt, all our shame, all our deep wounds, all the things that we don't want people to see. And yet, Jesus said, pull it out. Show it to me. And the man did, and the man was healed. I'm not saying that pulling wounds is easy, church. But when you are in a safe atmosphere, a non-judgmental atmosphere, where the presence of God wants to do a healing work inside you, I pray that He would, one, use us as a vessel for others, but He would also convict us and speak to us that it is okay to touch the sky. It is okay to